Civilization.
The podcast so good it will make your dick explode.
Even if you don't have one.
All right, hello and welcome to the Diseases of Civilization podcast. I think that's what we're calling this thing. I don't know. And I'm Evan.
I'm Jeremiah.
And we are the What Brothers something. I don't know. Jeremiah, a.k.a. Bubba.
A.k.a. Jeremiah.
A.k.a. Big Sexy. A lot of AKAs for this guy.
Well, none of them are described by myself.
That's right. Well, no good AKA is. It's always ascribed by a third party. All right, so here we are. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We're just decided to make a podcast because why not? And basically, I don't want to get too much into introductions because I feel like most people would find it pretty boring. Maybe later, if someone is actually interested in what we're doing, we can introduce ourselves more. But I figure we'll just start talking and see what happens. And we have a very sort of jury-rigged system here. I mean, I'm not anywhere close to a professional podcaster or even a good amateur. I just been using some recording equipment that I have laying around, music recording equipment, so it's
Come
not...
on, dude, you got a mini Marshall amp?
A Marshall MG, yes, the finest...
You're as professional as a 14.
The finest amplifier known to man. The tone that sounds like a tiny cell phone speaker distortion. Yeah, don't even get me started on that. Actually, that's not mine. I'm pretty sure it's this other guy who lent it to me like
Sure it is.
10 years ago. It's not mine, I swear. Come on, Dad. Yeah, so, I mean, I think the audio should be good enough, though. I mean, if anybody complains about it, well, just don't listen. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to shell out money for these professional...
If you don't like it,
studio.
leave.
That's right. Thank you, Alec Baldwin. Anyway, so we're just going to pretty much talk and see where it goes. Probably try to keep it around 1 hour, something like that. And that's about it. So also we have a website, which is diseasesofcivilization.us, because we're American and because that URL is cheaper than .com.
What about www?
No, you don't need that. It doesn't. It's on the deep web. It doesn't. You don't need www.
It's so deep.
It's not World Wide Web. It's only like local web. It doesn't even go to other countries. It just goes to Canada and the U.S. That's basically it. Yeah, I know Canada's another country, but anyway. So that website, actually, it's not made yet, but by the time this is on YouTube, it will be created. And I plan to have like a forum and blog. That's basically it. Very simple. But just something where hopefully like-minded people can come together and discuss the issues of the day. And now to the weather with Tom. Tom with weather. Yeah, and the name, the name Diseases of Civilization, I think it's a very provocative title. Ooh, gets the blood pumping. The reason for that is, I always thought it was a pretty cool term, and in science or biology, it refers to those diseases or disorders which people suffer from due to our current lifestyle, civilization, essentially. So, for example, like diabetes or heart disease, right? Things that people in so-called primitive cultures don't usually suffer from. And I just thought it was kind of a cool concept. Now, this podcast or these discussions are not related to those diseases literally, okay? It's a metaphor, people. Just try to think a little bit about it. I know, I'm very deep, but just try to get on my level if you can. So, yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a pretty cool concept that there's certain, and it's something that we talk about a lot, right? Which is the idea that people have to go through certain things not because of our nature. There's nowhere saying that we have to go through these things. It's just because of our, in this case, what we talk about, our culture, our society, not about, the diseases of civilization, the medical term is about technology, like, well, we're able to produce all this food, so we overeat. We're talking more about the psychological or emotional.
Yeah, they're not physical, tangible diseases.
Right.
Something that I think about when you mentioned the title is the name of George Carlin's special, You're All Diseased.
Yeah, exactly.
Which touches totally on the psychological aspect and how society influences us and affects us as individuals.
Yeah, I thought of that too. I keep thinking about that phrase, you're all diseased, because we are all diseased, really, with the diseases of civilization.
And some,
Back to the...
it's not all bad. I'm not saying that society and civilization is 100% bad. The fact that we're able to talk to people, wherever we're reaching them right now is a symptom and fact of, the great things of civilization. We're not just saying that, oh, it's so shitty and we're all victims.
Right. I mean, it's more about looking at the things like, okay, we enjoy certain things, but can we eliminate those things that we don't enjoy from it? I mean, you can always be more perfect.
And also saying that just because it is a thing, it is accepted, and it is expected of you.
A little closer to the mic, yeah, people.
In our society, so deep throat it?
Essentially,
okay.
yeah. I mean, you don't have to gag yourself, but
I prefer to.
Put your lips on it, Come on, don't be shy.
But just because something is a norm in our society, I think that you and I both agree that it doesn't mean that it's out of bounds or shouldn't be questioned. It doesn't mean that something should be accepted. A great example is marriage. That's something that is just we just made it up. It's just an idea.
Right.
It doesn't mean that idea is something that strikes a chord with everyone.
Not only marriage, but dating.
Right.
I mean, that's something we talk about a lot. I mean, we're both... That's another thing, too. Let me just interject that this title I'm explaining, it's not necessarily like our focus. We're not always going to necessarily talk about, okay, the so-called diseases of civilization. I just thought it was a cool name, and just ate big dinner. You didn't know. You just had a few ribs out of a bag. But, we're just going to talk about whatever comes up. But I just wanted to, I was trying to think of a name, and I always like that term. So it's not necessarily the focus, and we don't have a set focus. Although I will say, just for those of you who are actually listening, which would be a surprise to me.
Your mom.
My mom will probably listen, yeah, and then she'll probably be horrified at the stuff we say, and she won't talk to me. But other than Mom, anyone else who's listening, we're probably going to talk today, because I have this article that I wanted to share with the group. Of
Myself included. I'm
yes.
not privy to this, whatever
right.
this is.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You are the group. All we got is each other. I mean, I'm not assuming anyone's going to listen to this. The group meaning you, which is related to something related to men and women, kind of like that. So we're probably going to talk pretty often about men and women, relationships, as it were. I wouldn't say that we classify ourselves as like so-called MRA or MGTOW or any set name, but I think we do share a lot of the same ideals of that kind of stuff. We're definitely very strongly against most forms of modern feminism, so-called third wave feminism, all that stuff.
I guess one of the best ways to preface our ideas or how we think is we don't just think, well, because it is a societal norm, it's something that we shouldn't question. And it doesn't also mean that we arbitrarily hate societal norms. Some of them we think about and we conclude that, okay, we agree with this or we don't, but we don't just arbitrarily come to the conclusion that it's beneficial or not either way. But we're not afraid to question things. Yeah,
it's cool that we have a rule that you can't just kill people. Like, I think we can all agree that's a good idea. But doesn't mean
nothing
everything
sacred, I guess, is the most simplest and best way to phrase it.
But
yeah, when I go to say something,
yeah, because like I think a lot of your little things where you're like, yeah, not that it's essential for the.
It's still weird
content.
for you to be loud,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, or like you're not. It sounds like I'm just talking to myself or something.
Right.
Okay, and we're back. Sorry, we had a brief interruption. That might happen, but I will try to cut everything up so that it flows well. Anyway, so we were talking about the theme, or lack thereof, of this podcast.
Exactly.
That there really is none, but like we said, men and women, that's probably something that will come up a lot. just because that's something we talk about all the time with each other. It's something we're interested in.
Well, it affects us.
And it's a big
Every
issue of the
single
day. I mean,
how could it not?
people our age are talking about it a lot now. It's not, that's no secret. So,
Well, it's not just our own individual, things that happen in our life. There's legislature that
right.
gets passed based on this. It's
Legislation, yeah.
Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. He's not
But
very smart.
it's not just anecdotal, small little things that affect one individual. There's things that affect the masses.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a relevant issue. I don't want to say it's a hot topic, but it is, really. So that will probably come up. I mean, just general current events, whatever we hear about, something we're interested in. So, I mean, who knows where it will go, but hopefully people enjoy it. So, anyway, without further ado, let's move on to something. Can you hand me that tablet that was over there? Speaking of, is it over there? Nope. Oh, it's up there. Hold on. Okay.
Jeez.
Sorry. And by the way, yes, we are two men sitting on a futon mattress on the floor. Let's ignore the homoerotic implications of that.
Well, if this doesn't make dicks hard,
I don't know what will.
I'm not spreading my asshole again.
Come on, dude. Just one more time. Don't be shy. All right, so actually I encountered this article some time ago, but I wanted to wait until we were both, I didn't want to just mention it to you offhand. I wanted to actually sit down and discuss it because I think it's, interesting. I guess you could say interesting and very indicative of a lot of the problems that I think we both have towards American women these days. All right. I mean, it's just, it sort of displays some of the, all right, don't read it though. I want to read it to you. Come on, God. You're not doing it right. I want to read it. You don't read. I read. God. Fuck.
Sexy.
Okay, later. Yeah, later this mattress will fold out into the full size. Then we can really get down to the business. But YouTube will not allow us to upload the events that will take place later, unfortunately. You can find that stuff on Pornhub.com. Just search Diseases of Civilization sex tape. Alright, so this article is entitled, this is from a website called, read the name of the website, vagabondish.com. Yeah.
Right.
That's the name of the website.
How did you find this?
Good question. I don't know. I couldn't tell you how I found half the
I've never heard of that site.
crazy shit. Well, I wasn't on this site. The article just happens to be from this site. So I think I was linked to the article from some other thing.
Okay.
And then
it's a sweet site name. I like, the name Vagabond is pretty sweet.
You like it?
So.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point, I never really browsed the rest of the site, but as far as I can tell, it's this woman or young woman and it's one of these travel blogs. Now a lot of people are just making money from traveling the world and writing a blog about it. That's pretty much what she's doing. And I guess she's probably selling something, ebooks or whatever. Anyway, not important. Name of the site, vagabondish.com. Name of the author, Rhiannon, not like the Fleetwood Mac song. I mean, it's spelled differently. I don't know if it's the same pronunciation. Rhiannon Muth. I know, it's a very very sexy name, as you can tell. All right. I don't want to attack her personally. I mean, I do want to attack the content of this article.
Let's see what she had to say. I mean, I don't know.
All right, let's see. So the name of the article is, this is exceedingly clever. You ready? No Sex in the City, what it's like to be female and foreign in Japan. Are you titillated or are you titillated? I can tell your berries are tingling. Yes.
I mean, this is incredibly tantalizing. My asshole is quivering.
There you go.
Get
it right in there.
My taint is feeling ticklish.
Taint's a little ticklish. Okay, folks, we've got a reaction.
No Sex in the City thing. Whoa.
Right, it's like that show Sex in the City?
No.
You've heard of that, right?
No, it's different.
You haven't? No,
it's a different feeling that I get.
No, I'm just trying to tell you.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, that show, right?
No.
Oh, never mind. Then you're not gonna. It's so over your head. You don't get anything. God, you're a rube. You're not cultured because you haven't seen that
right.
that great work of art.
Read the title one more time.
Okay, so the title is No Sex in the City, What It's Like to Be Foreign, What It's Like to Be Female and Foreign in Japan. That's why I wouldn't be I just tried to like do the thing where I read it and then I look up to have eye contact with the camera, but I messed up.
Right.
I'm not experienced at reading.
That's a pretty, that's a talent.
It is, yeah. Well, also they have teleprompters, that's why it's
true.
behind the camera, right? So.
All right, so I'll just try to guess.
Let's just go.
What this article's about, based on just solely on the title.
Yeah. Let me get the mic a little closer. There you go.
I'm guessing that this chick is obviously foreign and in Japan.
Well, we know her name, Rhiannon Muth. She's definitely not
Japanese. Sound too Japanese. I don't know what the fuck that sounds like, but it's not Japanese, that's for sure.
No.
But
certainly not.
I'm guessing she's having trouble enticing men, not being able to speak the language, the fact that she looks different, probably acts different, probably expects to be treated a certain way by men, and it's not happening for her.
All right. Well, I guess we don't have to read the article because
not everything
you've
is
already.
A fucking movie. It turns out, in no
That's
novel,
true.
It's not.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, you're pretty much on the money there.
Basically,
with the
she doesn't have
general
what men
direction
want to offer, and she has no idea how to get men, because that's not what women do.
Okay. Well, yes, I would say that's pretty much the general direction.
Let's give her the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Let's see what this
Well, I mean,
is.
that's pretty evident from the title. I mean, we can guess, obviously, no sex in the city. She's obviously not having sex, right? And she's talking about it from her perspective. But I really want to focus on the actual, I mean, that's one thing if she just wrote about, here's my experience, but I want to really discuss her theories about the reasons why.
To say what I had to say, so let's see what
this
lady
hold on,
says.
lift up your leg real quick. There you go. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into this here. Now, this article is very interesting to me because I recently returned from China after 3 years, and
Whoa.
I know I'm very well traveled. I'm a man of the world, to be honest. But no, I mean I saw some similar things that she's describing with Western women in China. Some of the similar, shall we say, challenges. It's quite different though. I mean, it is a bit different culturally, but I mean, China and Japan are definitely closer than, for example, China and America or Japan and America. I mean, they definitely have a lot more similarities. So I thought this was very interesting because I had seen some of this myself. All right, let me get into the article now. Okay, I'll just read as we can discuss as we go along. Okay, but let me finish each paragraph before we discuss. We usually have a tough time keeping female teachers here, my boss informed me on my first day of work as an English teacher in Tokyo. They usually don't last more than 6 months. I looked up from studying the roster list of teachers, 30, all male, in surprise. You mean at this school? No, I mean... ... In Japan? He shrugged. Tokyo's a tough city to be single, if you're, a Western woman. Okay, now, first of all, that doesn't sound like realistic conversation at all, but also I will just say that that's probably not anything to do with necessarily women, but in general, foreign ESL teachers in Asia are notoriously flaky and inconsistent. It's not probably only in Japan or only women who quit after 6 months.
So much different than what you're accustomed to.
Right.
There has to be an extremely high amount of turnover. I'm sure you can
exactly.
validate this,
Yeah.
male or female. A lot of people realize it's just not for them,
Right.
for a variety of reasons.
Plus,
whether or not you have a dick or a vagina is independent of that. There's
Indeed.
a whole cultural shift that you're having to go through.
Plus, a lot of the people who decide to do something like that, just their personality is that of, a vagabond. They're just someone who wants to travel a little bit. They're not really looking for a career. So just like you wouldn't feel too motivated to stay at your job at McDonald's for more than 6 months. I mean, you would if you just needed a job, but it's not like people go to McDonald's like, yeah, this is the path for me. I'm going to be here until the day I die. And ESL is very similar to that. So anyway, but that's neither here nor there.
And like you were saying, this conversation seems very embellished.
He's like, if you're, a Western woman, he said it all pointedly.
I don't think he would say it like that. This sounds very...
Probably not.
Well, I don't know how to say it except for bullshit.
Unrealistic. Yeah. There's not really a lot of verisimilitude in this article. Okay. Now, next paragraph. I stole a quick glance at the photos that were mounted on the wall behind him. 4 middle-aged white dudes. By the way, this is important. White dudes is capitalized. Because that's a... Alright, just wait. 4 middle-aged white dudes. All of them were bearded and balding. All of them resembled the aging, stringy-haired members of the band Metallica. I don't think they have stringy hair, to be honest. And all of them were pressed up against the model thin bodies of a heavily made-up Japanese beauty queen. Now, this one paragraph, I have to admit, I have to give it to Rhiannon. I don't know if this was her goal, but she's really good at packing in a lot of subtext into a short
She remembers a lot.
She sure does.
Her first day in
Yeah.
Japan, she remembers very
Every
vividly,
detail, I know.
every little aspect of her interaction with this guy.
I couldn't tell you what I did last Monday, you know, to be honest. So
No, I don't know what the fuck happened.
then again, I do a lot of hard drugs, so that's probably why. Allegedly. All right, so now this is interesting. Like I said, there's a lot of subtext here because she doesn't outright say it, but there's clearly like a tone of judgment.
Yes.
In, you know, white dudes is capitalized and...
Well, she made sure to let you know that he said that it's women that fail to last more than 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
which makes you know, he didn't say that just foreigners in general. He said women.
Right.
And then, of course,
a Western woman, yeah.
Yes. And then, of course, the fact that the wall is you know, full of men with their stringy
Right.
hair. Oh no.
Well, it's also weird too because, I mean, I don't really know why she mentioned this because what is this picture exactly? 4 middle-aged white dudes. I mean, is she trying to say that these are these guys' girlfriends? She didn't say that. I mean, if you look at a lot of company photos, at least in Asia, they will always like hire some sort of models or something to pose in like a big group photo.
Everyone does.
Or someone in the staff. They're probably like receptionists or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the implication is that, so you know, it's kind of this judgment like, oh boy, look at all these old white men, and they're getting these hot Japanese girls,
Yeah.
even though they don't deserve them or something. All right, anyway, so next paragraph. I don't think I'll have a problem, I thought. You know, she's quite confident. Now, it wasn't that I was, now
Why
remember...
not? It's always white guys on the board, which...
Yeah, I don't think I'll have a problem. Well, now here's her little humble bragging section. And now, remember this, what she says here, and then we'll actually compare it to the reality later. So this is what she says. It wasn't that I was beauty queen gorgeous. Far from it. Slim, medium height with hazel eyes and freckles. I was at best cute, and at worst average. But I had something that the competition didn't. Alright, well, first of all, let me see if you can guess. What did she have that the competition didn't have? Meaning Japanese girls, Japanese beauty queens. What is the advantage that she has, which she thinks, like, this is going to put me over the top, baby? When they see this, they're going to...
Realistically, nothing. But I'm trying to...
Like, what does she think she
what
has?
she's going to say. Probably she's probably confident, and she probably has a lot of gusto, and she takes no guff, and she's coming at this with a...
She's got moxie.
Exactly.
Well, that's not it, but I'm going to take one more guess. All right, I'll tell you this. It's a physical feature. That's,
really? She's subjected
she has
herself to
some, yeah, she reduced herself to a physical feature.
that.
This
Oh,
is
wow.
the one.
See, I was giving her more credit than that.
Right.
Well,
Put the
good
mic
for her.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a physical feature, I would say I would have to guess tits and or ass.
Incorrect. I had something that the... You're wrong! Sorry, that was probably really loud. I had something that the competition didn't. Long, naturally curly, blonde hair.
Really?
Naturally... Did you hear that? Naturally curly.
I was
mean,
giving her way more credit than she deserved here.
Dude, I don't think you're hearing this. Let me read it again. Long, naturally curly, blonde... I don't know how else can I say this to you.
The whole tone of this is, so far, has been to say how disrespectful, rude, and topical objectifying women has been. Yet,
Jeremiah.
she's saying how her benefit is this physical feature, which she did nothing to achieve. It's a circumstance of birth. Congratulations, you have long curly hair, naturally.
I
did
don't...
it.
Naturally
I'm proud of
curly.
you.
Can you believe... Do the Japanese girls have that? No.
They certainly don't.
Of course not. I mean, how can they compete with that? Okay, so she had naturally curly blonde hair. Furthermore, now here's the parts that no man cares about. I was bilingual, well-traveled, and college-educated.
How much more attracted to her are you now, having known that?
Let's see. It's hard to measure. I don't know how you can measure something less than 1.
0.0.
Yeah, my scale is not finely calibrated enough to actually measure fractions.
How many
that
boners
small.
were popped upon having heard that she was bilingual?
1 for each feature, so 3.
No.
Bilingual, well-traveled, and college-educated. Do you care if a girl is college-educated when you think about dating her?
Really flaccid right now.
No. Sorry,
Really
I mean, it's just reality. Yeah, if you're talking about who you want to marry or who you want to be your business partner, all these, but it's not the same thing. This is one of the problems that I think men and women both have, is when they think about what makes you a good person, they think about that as what makes you attractive. It's not always the same thing, unfortunately.
Let's go back. Well,
it's not the way it works.
Since she mentioned it, I'll mention it. What was on that wall?
Right.
A very pretty Japanese girl.
Mm-hmm.
Did it mention anywhere that she was bilingual?
Well, they probably are if they're dating white guys.
But did it mention that?
No.
Did it say on there, oh, by the way, she's bilingual? No. She was just beautiful.
Hey, this girl's well-traveled. She's been to several continents.
That was nowhere on that fucking wall.
Right. Okay, so she feels pretty confident. She feels like, at the beginning of this article, we still haven't gotten to even her problem. I didn't think I'll have a problem. Okay, so she's kind of like, she doesn't think she's all that, but she's like, hey, I got long, naturally curly blonde hair.
And
I'm
she's
bilingual.
She's confident.
I mean, I should be able to get at least a few dozen guys a week, right? And that's what happened to me in America.
Give or take a few.
Yeah. By the way, that's the unspoken part too. Is, well, I'm getting guys in America, but let's see what happens. Read on. But as I realized a few weeks into my stay in Japan, I was also mysteriously, frustratingly invisible.
Ooh.
Invisible. Dun dun dun. Cute baristas at Starbucks wouldn't look at me. Businessmen on bicycles ran over me. It sounds painful. And college students hurriedly backed away from me with mumbled apologies. Whenever I tried to strike up a conversation about the weather or ask for directions, they wouldn't even give me the time of day, literally. Now, let's unpack this. Now, she didn't... Okay, well, let me just read it again, then I'll just get your impression, because I'm sure you're probably going to be thinking the same lines as me. Let me read that again. So the baristas wouldn't look at her. Businessmen on their bicycles ran her over. I don't really know I don't know how you can be run over by a bicycle more than one time. It sounds like your problem.
Well, they managed to write this article. That's impressive.
Yeah, I guess she has use of her hands, or text type, or what do you call it, talk type thing. And college students backed away whenever she tried to strike up a conversation about the weather or ask for directions.
Anyone, whether they're male or female, when they strike up a conversation about weather, is fucking annoying.
But
okay?
When someone talks about weather, don't you just assume they're trying to flirt with you?
Yes. All the time.
Yeah, I know I did when I was in probably 10th grade. She talked to me! Dude, I think she likes me.
This just reinforces the idea. Women, when men do not approach them, when it is not they who are sought after, are completely lost.
Well, we'll talk about that later. Just wait. I know, yes, that's the logical next step, but that will be covered later in the article, trust me. All right, so she was not getting talked to in random situations. So far, she hasn't described any actual attempt to flirt or to...
Which, by the way, that is every man's every fucking day.
Right.
When they are not being talked to by women. But
yeah, every man lives his whole life like this. Welcome to our world.
No matter where you are.
Yeah, join the club.
Okay, anyway.
Well, it's funny, too, because like you said about... Didn't you just mention the catcalling before? Like they miss it when they don't have it. Well
that, I don't
look at this. I mean,
podcast, but
okay. I thought I remember you saying something about that. So it's the implication here is she was expecting, probably because of her experience living in America or other Western countries, that in all these situations the men would be throwing themselves at her. Like, well, the cute breezes at Starbucks always look at me. By the way, I don't believe that they didn't actually look at her, and if they did, it's probably because they were shy, as many Asian men were, especially not just because they're Asian, but a lot of them probably can't speak English. Okay, so if you start talking to them, they get nervous.
And
it
maybe
happens
they're
in
also
China
a
all the
little
time.
intimidated by the fact that you're Western, white,
Right.
American.
Well, they probably she was too attractive because of that long curly
Dude, that long curly hair.
blonde hair. I mean, that was they were like, I can't. She talked
I'm
to
running
her.
for cover.
She's way out of my league, buddy. I mean, businessmen on bicycles. What were they supposed to do as they were riding their bicycle going to work?
They should have thrown their coats down.
Right. They should have
Let
like.
her walk
Should they
over
have
there.
screeched to a halt like, "Hey, want to go out?" As they're riding to work, like, wouldn't you be weirded out by that if somebody did that?
No,
Why-
they should have flirted with her.
Yeah, as they were drive-by flirting. And yeah, and then she didn't get many hits on her
I'm
weather
confused by
or
this,
direction
I saw some
conversations.
videos where women were approached in New York City and that was offensive. So I'm not sure where this is going. I'm
Are you
sure-
saying this is a contradiction?
Yes, exactly.
Whoa, dude. That's a bold statement. I don't know.
What do women want here?
Well, they want to be approached by the exact men they like when they want to. Isn't that easy? I mean, why can't we just do that? Why can't we all just know what every woman, when she wants to be approached and when she doesn't, and then just conform to that? It seems fair to me.
I'm just going to assume that they all want me.
Well, that's what I do, and so far it hasn't worked, but maybe it'll work better for you. This is the diseases of civilization
Yes.
seduction method. Assume everyone wants you and just
How do these men win? That's really my
just
question.
directly
According to Western women, how do these men win? Because I get conflicting ideas here by these women.
well, as a great
Let's continue.
okay, let's continue on. You've got to be assertive, my Japanese girlfriends advised. Japanese guys are shy, so you have to make the first move.
Oh man, something no woman will ever want to do or will do.
Well, now wait a second. She did, my friend. She changed her tack a little bit. Now, her Japanese girlfriends told her this. Now, listen to the change that she implemented. So, I smiled invitingly at men in bars and on buses. I asked for help reading restaurant menus and subway signs.
So you sound like a fucking idiot.
Do you
That's
have...
appealing.
Listen. Do you have any book/drink recommendations? Was my usual line as I stood near them in bookstores or sat next to them on bar stools. But the come hither stare or conversation starter doesn't work if the other person refuses to look at you. If they met my gaze at me at all... Wait, what? Okay, I think this is like a typo. If they met my gaze at me at all... I think she meant to say, if they met my gaze at all, it was just to shoot me this panicked look like I just asked them to father my unborn children. My boss had been right. It was hard to be a single Western woman in Japan. But why? So... Alright, let's unpack this one now. So her Japanese girlfriends say, hey, you've got to be more assertive. And she says, alright, I'm going to be more assertive. I'm going to look at men in bars. That's the first step. I'm going to ask for help reading subway signs. And I'm going to ask for any book/drink recommendations. I hope she didn't ask it in that literal way.
Wow.
Do you have any book/drink recommendations?
She's a real go-getter, this one.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, so let's just... spin
If
this
that's all
around.
it took to be assertive, and
Let's just
I've
spin
been
this
doing it all
around,
wrong.
Right? And let's say that she was a young man. Let's say she was a 24-year-old, recent college graduate from Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in Japan, struggling to meet new women. And a Japanese man told her, you need to be assertive. And he went out, and he said, for a week, and he said, well, I was asking women for directions.
I don't understand why they weren't just
I was telling
dropping
them
their
that
panties
that I
when I
needed
did that.
help reading a menu, and I was looking at them.
What?
What in the hell do you think this Japanese guy would say? He would fucking laugh at you and say, you call this assertive?
Right. Well,
Women, this is not your area.
well, her idea of assertive is exactly what we consider to be like the least assertive man in America. Like that's what
Here's what you can't be assertive by asking for help.
That's true.
Okay,
Kind of the opposite.
Those
of
are
assertive.
mutually exclusive ideas. They don't coincide.
Well, I
No
mean,
one says, if I went up to you, if we were strangers, and you were with a girl, and I said, hey, how do I get to New York City? I'm lost. And you tell me, and I said, okay, thanks, man.
Well, the point...
Your girl would not say, man, he sure was assertive.
Right. Well, not only that, but, I mean, they said be assertive, but the next part is be assertive about dating men. You didn't mention anything about, except come hither, which maybe...
None of that, which she mentioned, had
right. I mean,
with dating.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you can be as assertive as you want about books, but how does that relate back to getting men?
What she did...
Well, I mean, be assertive means ask men to go out, try to get their phone number.
Because assertive means...
Flirt with them. We have to explain this?
By definition, is going for what you want. And if you want to date men, do behavior, or, have a behavior which helps you get men and go out with them. And asking for directions is retarded if you think that's how you get men. Well, see, this just reinforces the whole idea that you and I both share, which is women have no idea how to get men.
Right, they have no skills.
It's our responsibility to get them.
Well, it also proves that they have no idea how men actually get women. They think they do. That's why you should never, as Patrice O'Neill advised.
Yes, which let's just go ahead and say that Evan and I both love what Patrice had to say about women. So
I would say
a lot of what we say coincides with his ideas.
Right. I meant to say in the beginning, actually, I forgot to say that although we don't identify as any sort of bigger group as far as men and men's rights, whatever, I would say we both consider ourselves to be part of the cult of Black Phillip.
Absolutely.
Which, if you know what that is, then you know what we mean. It's not a real cult.
If you don't, I recommend checking it out.
But everyone should join. Every man. Every woman, too.
Yes, absolutely. It'd be a healthier society.
Right. So, anyway, but one of his theories was, one of his philosophies was that, women can't tell men how to get women. It's just like a fish telling a shark how to catch it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist.
The whole tuna and shark relationship
analogy. Yeah, and you can go listen to that. There's tons of content. Just look up Black Phillip, you'll find it. And so where were we? All right, so yeah, she was saying all this stuff, her asking for recommendations and all this, and like we said, yeah, and it proves that women don't know how men get them, because the natural thing for anyone to do, if you don't have any experience in something and you know about how someone else did it, is to copy them, right?
Yeah.
So what she's doing is, in her mind, she thinks, well, this is how men get women, so I'm just going to do that. But really, she has no idea. She has no idea how she was ever gotten by any men. She was got. She got. But she don't know how she got.
Which is the whole point.
Exactly.
How many times do women complain about men doing something to them, cheating, being manipulative, whatever, and it happens to them again and again and again, because they're prey.
Right. All right. So it was hard to be a single Western woman in Japan, but why? So, all right, but let's just back up here before she talks about her theories about why this is, and which really is a bitter rant, if nothing else. She didn't really.
Japanese men have nothing wrong.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, she hasn't really talked a lot about them. She kind of said they didn't look at me, but she didn't. She mostly talked about herself.
Which, by the way,
she didn't really say.
This is good.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, don't acknowledge them. Don't objectify them, etc.
Well, I don't know what to do. This
naturally curly hair should not cause any stares.
Well, again, we're supposed to only look when they want to be looked at, and we're supposed to somehow intuitively sense this.
You should know when that is.
And be superhumanly empathic to read their emotions. I wish I was, believe me. That would be easier for all parties involved, but it's not that way. Okay, so, but she moves around talking about the reasons why, but she didn't really put out much effort, as we just said. I mean, she asked for directions. Like, isn't that something you'd be doing anyway?
Yes.
Or were you going out of your way? I mean, if you look at any advice, any basic advice that men give other men about how to talk to women, they might say start with something like directions, but that's not the
that is an excuse to talk
zenith of flirting.
That's your foot in the door.
Right. It's like you don't want to just go up and say, like, I like your long, naturally curly blonde hair. You sound like a fucking creep.
Yeah.
If you go up and say, hey, how do you get there? And then you actually...
All that is the foot in the door.
But see,
From there, you expand upon.
Right.
You flirt a little bit. You get their name.
Yeah.
Make them laugh. Make them play with their hair.
But as most women, Western women, she has no skills to get a man because she's never had to. I mean, you can't blame her. it's not her fault per se. It's
Guess
really
what?
men's fault because we give ourselves away too easily.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
So she's lived her whole life. Every time she went to a bar, somebody bought her a drink.
Yep.
Every time she
Guess
went
what?
to the
That
bookstore.
naturally curly hair meant a lot. In
Right.
America.
Well, it really didn't. Let's be honest here. No one was, put your makeup. Talking to the mic, you fucking
That
piece
little
of shit.
thing didn't. But like you said, the fact that she was a woman meant everything.
Right.
And men approached her that's how our culture
she's
that's how our society is.
she's a functioning woman with 2 legs and 3 holes, and
Well,
that's
as far
enough.
as you know.
That all right. Well, let's not. Yeah, I shouldn't be.
Don't give her too much credit.
Right. She might not have that privilege. Whole privilege. I'm sure that's a new type now. We'll get into all that stuff another time. All right. So. Anyway, so now she's on to her theories. But why? She wondered. I added that part. I turned to the internet for advice, and was surprised to learn that this is in capital. I think she apparently is under the impression that capitalizing things makes them seem more profound. I was surprised to learn that the dateless Western woman. I'm gonna read that way every time she capitalizes things arbitrarily.
Well, if she capitalized, you might as well.
Right. It's got to have some differentiation.
At least quote it
when you speak.
as though it's some sort of fucking title.
The dateless Western woman was a familiar character in the expat world, which it is, as I mentioned before. At least judging from the score of postings, I think she meant scores, from the scores of postings on expat forums by lonely single females. But as widespread as the problem seemed to be, it was one that many women avoided talking about. Understandably, it was a tough subject to discuss without grossly overgeneralizing 50% of a country's population or worse. Oh, sorry. Overgeneralizing 50% of a country's population or worse.
Again, she refuses to indict herself
Sounding,
in this problem.
Let me finish
and
the
bases it all on the men.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Understandably, it was a tough subject to discuss without grossly overgeneralizing 50% of a country's population or worse, sounding like a racist or a man-hating, snob. Okay, so the pervading theory, though, among expats and Japanese alike, was that Japanese men were in fact attracted to Western women, but were just too intimidated to do anything about it. Western women in Asia were like the Jennifer Anistons of the expat world. I'm not really sure what that means. What does that mean? The strong, independent, assertive, and outspoken.
No.
They were interesting to admire from afar, but no man would ever dream of striking up a conversation with one. Western women were so different, so foreign, they were virtually undateable. So this is... She didn't say this is necessarily her theory. She said the pervading theory. Which is, yeah, I've heard a similar theory. And I think, this is true in some cases,
I
definitely.
agree with it to some extent.
Right.
But this is the point where I think is important. The women go there and they realize that they don't automatically get attention from men, and they're helpless. They have no way to garner favor from men. They don't know how to interest men because it's not their role in America or their natural role, really.
Right. She talks about, but, and this is they're not wrong necessarily, but the way they frame it is not really correct. Because the way they frame it is that in a sort of it's like good or bad. The good thing is that, well, we're so independent and it's sort of, this is a good thing. This is inherently a good thing. And then, I know, let me finish. So they say, this is a good thing. We're so assertive independent, but it's too much for this culture which doesn't value that in women and all this stuff. But what it really refuses to acknowledge is that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, that's just their culture. If that's true,
they expect these men to play by their rules.
Right.
And they expect these men, here's what's ironic about it, is they acknowledge that they're expats and that they're in this foreign country and they're no longer playing by Western rules, but yet these guys are wrong. They're saying, I don't want to generalize them. I don't want to say that it's a racist thing.
But
you're not American anymore, sweetie.
Right. You are, but you're not in America.
Well, yeah, when you're in Japan, you're not playing by the same rules you had in Connecticut, New York, or Massachusetts. It's just not the same world.
Well,
it's not. Why do you think... Here's what's funny is that they acknowledge they have a problem meeting men, but they refuse to put any blame on themselves. They don't. They're saying, "Oh, I don't want to generalize," but you also don't want to point the finger at yourself and say, "Well, I won't make myself more accommodating for their culture."
Well, it's also
they're very guilty of that.
Yeah, and this is actually a trap that a lot of people fall into. I mean, I've done it as well. I mean, it's a normal temptation, and actually it has a name, which is cultural imperialism. They say that whenever someone travels, there's this risk of falling into a mindset of cultural imperialism, which is when you essentially think, my culture is the better one, and all these other countries that are different, like, it's not just that they're different, but they haven't
They're
yet...
inferior.
Right, they're inferior. They haven't
inferior.
yet discovered the superior way of doing
Right.
things, which
and
is
when they
blah,
get a
blah,
load of
blah.
what I have to offer, they're going to see the light.
Yeah.
They're going to know that my way
If
is
only,
better.
maybe in 10 years they'll be... And again, I mean, I've fallen into it before too. I mean, when I was in China, some things I would just think, God, why isn't it this way? And also, this doesn't mean that that's always wrong. I mean, there could be, for example, if you went to a country that was like, we think, if you go to fill in the country name where, it's okay to rape women,
right,
and it's acceptable. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, that's not as good as a culture which forbids that, but when you talk about things like this, I mean, it gets a little more iffy as to which one's right, which one's wrong. Also, what I want to point about this is that she said we're too assertive, but before that, she just said that her problem before is that she was being too timid. So which one? I mean, I guess maybe she's saying that the Japanese men, even when she was being timid, their stereotype of Western women was that, oh, they're going to be too assertive and they're not going to be, the kind of woman I want. So
there's a few things here that I...
Which, by the way, let me ask you this question too. If you thought a girl was hot, but if you thought she was really attractive, but let's say you prefer timid girls, but you thought, oh, she's assertive. Or let's say you prefer assertive girls, but you thought, oh, she's too timid. Would that in any way stop you from going after her if you thought she was physically attractive?
No.
Thank you.
Secondly...
Case closed.
First of all, no. Secondly... I don't prefer assertive or not assertive girls.
Right, I'm just saying if. Like,
but
just if that was your preference.
No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, should I move on? Next thing. Do you have anything else to say about that?
I'm just annoyed by the fact that she won't take any responsibility.
Yeah. Well, it only continues. It only gets worse. All right, so Western women were so different, so foreign, they were virtually undateable. Not true.
All right. There's something I want to touch on here.
Okay.
Which is...
The mic up. Yeah.
A lot of these guys probably weren't intimidated by
the way, before next time we'll have headphones set up. I couldn't do it this time because I'm waiting for a part that I need, but next time we should be able to hear ourselves when we talk, which would be much easier for recording. Sorry.
A lot of these guys... I think she's right when she said that a lot of these guys were intimidated. I totally agree with that. I think for them, a Western woman is different. The Western world is held in this high regard. With the Japanese, with cinema, whatever, they don't know how to approach them. There is a language barrier. There's a literal barrier there.
Right. I mean, as far as I can tell, she doesn't speak Japanese.
So, again, yeah, which does make her, she's not doing what she can.
But she is bilingual. I'm sure they care if she speaks Spanish.
Yeah, I'm sure Spanish helps her a lot.
And it's really an attractive feature for the guys, right?
But so she acknowledges the fact that she's intimidating this man.
Right.
So her answer to this is to ask for directions. That's really
right.
That's really going to get rid of this problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
and again, like I said, I mean, it's probably language too. Like, I mean, I know from my experience in China, a lot of Chinese people, they feel very self-conscious about their English ability. If you try to, even if they can probably understand you, like students and stuff, but if you start talking to them, a lot of times they'll freeze up, Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's man, woman, attracted to you, not attracted to you. It's not really relevant.
It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just that their interaction with you, the fact that you're Western, their culture in relation to yours,
and she didn't say, like, she didn't give any sort of indication of how long, like, she didn't say how long did she try to be more sort of a week, 6 months, and she couldn't get any, you know what I mean?
A small little thing where she asked for directions, she made eye contact with them. Wow, I'm so proud of you. And secondly, she would ask for help on menus and shit.
But I mean, and again, there's no indication of time. It's like people who say, oh, I tried to learn guitar, but it was too hard. It's like, how long did you try for? 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay, what did you expect? You're going to master it? All right, so let's go on. So they're virtually undateable. Not true for their Y chromosome carrying expat buddies, though. I don't know why you couldn't just say...
Of course, you're just reinforcing my fucking idea.
Why couldn't you just say men? Like, you know, there's an expression...
Y chromosome dickheads.
There's an expression in writing, you know, kill your darlings. I know you thought Y chromosome carrying expat buddy was a great turn of the phrase, but if you could just say men, then just say men.
Well, it just sounds phoned in and forced and just...
Very condescending as well.
Yes.
Not true for their Y chromosome carrying... By the way, this is also chromosome shaming or chromosome privilege.
It is, ironically.
Like,
Yes.
why is it...
Success. Fuck them. How dare they?
While the female expats spent Saturday nights alone, crying into their ramen bowls... That's pretty funny. Their male counterparts...
That sounds like something a man would write, doesn't it?
I guess.
It really does.
It's pretty funny. Their male counterparts drank freely from the dating pool like they owned it. Which in a way they did. That's what she wrote.
Fucking did.
Right. They did it. Ah, wow, reversal of roles, eh? Guess you're not really prepared for that. If you've ever visited Asia, you've likely seen the pale, rail-thin, greasy-haired white boy walking hand in hand with a perfectly made-up
It sounds like how
mini-skirt wearing
sounds like how
Asian
a
chick.
black guy would describe his like newly like bitch white guy he's got in prison. Like some like
He's
20-year-old white guy.
rail-thin,
Yeah.
greasy hand.
Yeah. It's very
Almost
offensive.
like
ironically.
Marcellus Wallace. He's all piping. All right.
Oh, pipe him, motherfucker.
So, greasy-haired white boy walking hand-in-hand with a perfectly made-up, mini-skirt-wearing Asian chick. By the way, no, you don't... She said Asia. I'm guessing she hasn't been to that many Asian countries. Because I'm sure it happens in Japan. I've never been to Japan, but it's well known that there's a ton of those guys who look like that in America who are obsessed with Japans. I guess they're called, like, kotaku or something.
Weeaboos.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. What do I say? That's a website. I don't fucking know. So there's...
always heard it or seen it.
Wait, yeah,
Like
Weeaboo?
W-E-A-B-I, or excuse me, W-E-A-B.
I think you can say Japanophile. Let's just speak English.
Japan
'Cause-
fag.
Japan fag, okay.
Japan
Tons
fag.
of... Alright. So, there's a lot of guys who look like that who probably... Their life's ambition is to go to
By
Japan.
the way, she could have described most Japanese guys with the first part of that.
Probably.
Pale.
Rail thin.
Yeah, those are Japanese guys, right?
Right. And it's just funny, too, like... I mean... The implication is that these are all negative traits. Like,
And
they were
plus-
pale and rail
Plus,
thin.
she's just going by the body type again.
Yeah.
Which to most girls is offensive.
Right. Well, if we did it, it'd be called body shaming,
Yeah, it
or
is.
fat shaming. But women can do it. It's okay. All right. White boy walking hand in hand with a perfectly made up miniskirt wearing Asian chick. This would never happen anywhere else in the world. Wait. Stop. Back up. Okay. Here's another. This is why I picked this. Do you see why I picked this article? Not because of Japan or Asia or men. It's
There's
because
so many contradictions
it
here.
typifies. Is the right word? It exemplifies, like,
Yeah,
I'll
there
say,
you go.
I think
There you go.
typifies is the right word too. It exemplifies so much of what women don't know, and so many of the
Well,
misconceptions they
she's
have.
hopeless here.
Right. So
She's in a big C.
so she thinks she's under the impression that she's under two false impressions. Number one, that women really place a lot of emphasis on a man's looks, and that by extension,
Yeah.
nowhere else in the world except for Asia or Japan, whatever she's generalizing,
That's a
can
lie.
unattractive men get hot women.
Okay, let's just address that thought.
Right.
That is a
It's a lie, and we're living proof of
that's a
that.
complete
Yeah,
lie.
it certainly is. Or it's not necessarily a lie. It's just a misconception that she has. She probably doesn't even know that it's wrong.
Well,
That's what she thinks.
I won't say it's a lie. You're right, because she honestly believes it.
Yeah, it's a myth.
She's just
You can say
wrong.
it's a myth, right?
She's wrong, and culturally, it's a myth.
Mm-hmm.
The fact
The
that
mic up.
the fact
Okay,
that
the
I
fucking mic, yeah. Oh, God.
the fact that
Tape
I
it to your
and
face.
you, who are not tens, physically speaking,
Yeah, 9.5, but
can
you know,
and have
whatever.
sex with girls that are
Right.
8s, 9s, 10s, whatever, just purely physically speaking,
Right.
is a testament to the fact that women are not as attracted to the physical form
Which is a good
of
thing.
men
Right.
as men are women, which is a wonderful thing. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
it any other way.
Well, not only
Because
is it
I'm-
good for us,
I'm not stuck.
not only is it good for us, but I think objectively and morally, it's a better thing.
Yes.
I mean, I wish I could just only consider a girl's intellect and she's bilingual, and like I wish that was attractive, but it's just not biologically speaking, it ain't. So
I think that's an important
the way it
distinction.
is.
I wholeheartedly do wish that I could appreciate
Right.
sexually
Mm-hmm.
a woman's intellect, a woman's inner thoughts, a woman's moral composition.
Well, it's like
But
that.
I just don't, and I'm not going to lie about it.
Well, it's not
And
that
I'm
you
not-
don't appreciate.
I'm
No,
not
all
gonna feel
right.
guilty.
It's not that you don't
Sexually-
appreciate it. It doesn't sexually attract
That's what
you.
I'm
Let's just
saying.
say that.
I said sexually.
Okay, sexually appreciate it. Right.
I do appreciate it. It
Right.
helps me converse with a woman.
Sure.
It helps me find her attractive and hold a conversation and laugh.
I mean, ideally,
But I
they
don't-
have both.
I do not sexually appreciate. I just don't, and no man does.
Right. Well,
That's nature.
yes, it is nature.
You
All
don't
right. So, as we were just saying, she thinks that women women focus intently on a man's physical appearance to determine whether or not she can be with him, which, as we know, is not
It is
true.
bullshit.
Just look at the bevy of men, famous men, who, are nothing to look at, but whether they're famous, they're rich, they're good at something. And again, this is a positive thing. It's like that movie Shallow Hal, right, where he was, there was a spell put on, which I was just thinking about that when you were talking. And I think it's kind of, I never thought about this, but that movie's kind of bullshit. I mean, besides the fact that it's obviously, supernatural basis, but it's kind of bullshit because the guy casts a spell where, you're going to see a woman's inner beauty, but he's still only attracted, at least for a while, to the physical appearance. It's just that he's the only one who can see that appearance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Isn't that funny? Like, he would see, like, it was kind of an afterthought. Like, it was just, oh, well, now he'll actually give these chicks the time of day. And then later that will allow him to discover their inner beauty. But it's only because they looked hot to him. He would go, whoa, she's hot.
Well, here's
Isn't
what
that
I
kind of
find
funny
funny
that it's kind of-
about the whole idea as well. I'm just going to be honest here. Most girls, let's say that whole idea was real, where you could appreciate a girl's inner beauty and you would find that physically attractive. Most girls don't have it.
Yeah.
Let's say a girl...
They don't have to.
Exactly.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy or a vicious cycle.
Most attractive girls who are even remotely attractive don't have anything inside of them to make them interesting, to make them, in that universe, physically attractive.
Well, I wouldn't say don't have anything, but
I'm just saying...
they don't have... their so-called inner beauty or personality is not enough to just carry them.
No. That's what I'm saying. In
You know
that
what I mean?
sort of
Yeah.
universe where,
You get-
let's say they're a 4 in some
Right.
weird, in some, spectrum, they wouldn't have the inner beauty, their personality, to carry them to be a 9.
Mm-hmm.
They just lack it. Because men do have it. We make up that ground.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's different. I mean, yeah, being as a male, being attractive probably helps. I'm sure it does.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I mean, the more the better. But it's not like the main thing. Certainly not the only thing. All right. Anyway, so let's get back to the article. This never happened anywhere else in the world, because this is a very odd sort of statement
Anywhere
here.
in the world.
This next part. Because everywhere else, Barbie ends up with Ken, not his underemployed, socially awkward, samurai sword collecting neighbor Kevin. But in Asia, dating rules defy all logic or evolutionary law.
Oh, no, they don't.
Yeah.
You're stepping on ground which you are very ignorant.
Yeah, vastly ignorant about. In Asia, the nerd is king. So, alright, well, we kind of just cover a lot of why that's bullshit, because we just sort of explained that. But, again, also, it's interesting that she used the word underemployed, which means that she herself is underemployed. Isn't, if you're going to be making judgments.
Yes.
Because she's in the same situation. And, no, as we just said, no, they don't. And being socially awkward... I mean, these guys...
Well, that's a relative thing.
These guys probably know Japanese.
Right, exactly.
They probably know a lot about Japanese culture.
She is socially awkward.
They're enthusiastic about Japanese culture, not like you coming in trying to impose your culture on them. They probably know a lot of the same stuff, like whatever anime that the girls there like.
Mm-hmm.
They probably all have a common ground to talk about.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Japanese girls are just so much more easily approachable and accessible for a lot of the same reasons they understand pop culture.
Right.
They understand the fucking language.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, it's
sort of important, folks.
yeah, it kind of helps.
And again, not one time in this article, not once have I heard you read that she puts any blame upon herself.
Mm-mm.
She keeps attacking Japanese men, calling them the nerd prevails.
Yeah.
Oh, how dare they?
Well, maybe she will. Let's see. And this is, get ready for this this Olympic level backpedaling. So after all that, she did that little diatribe. She just wrote, "Not that I wished it otherwise."
Yeah, clearly.
How fast can I backpedal? Let me work in it. All right. So not that I wished it otherwise. For the most part, I was happy for them. No, you weren't.
Were you? You sound very bitter and angry.
Yeah, you obviously are not happy for them. I'm happy for this rail,
I'm happy
thin,
for this nerd.
pale, greasy-haired, underemployed,
you go,
socially
nerd.
awkward,
You pound
samurai
that
sword
Japanese
collecting nerd.
What an asshole.
Yeah, that's dishonest.
Yes, it is.
I was happy for them, and
No,
by the
you
way,
weren't.
you don't have to say you're happy for them. Just admit that you're bitter. I'm bitter about shit.
I'm bitter about a lot of
Yeah,
shit.
obviously. I mean,
we're bitter about women.
yeah, we're bitter about this.
Country.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm not gonna say.
God
Well,
damn.
I respect her opinion.
I don't respect her opinion.
Yeah, we're admitting that her opinion sucks.
Sometimes just admit you're bitter, okay?
Yeah,
It doesn't mean you're wrong.
you're human.
You're fucking
sorry,
bitter.
but she doesn't want to admit that. She doesn't. Like you said, she doesn't want to put any blame on herself for anything, really. I was happy for them. These men wouldn't have been able to score a date at home if they'd been a calendar. Boom, boom, boom. Look at that. Was she has a good comedy writing
funny.
here. You couldn't score a date if you were a fucking calendar. Oh, burned.
Get a load of that, Jack.
I know. So make like a tree and
You
leave.
fucking rail thin nerds.
I know. You couldn't get a date if
You're so bitter, aren't you?
Which again
You're so
is,
bitter to
is
these
not
rail-thin
true because
nerds.
guess what? If you look at any of those, I've never been to one, but if you look at pictures from any of those, what do you call it, cosplay conventions, furry conventions, there's plenty of girls there. Guess who they're dating? Not model guys. They're dating the guys who go to those conventions. So no, they could score a date. Yeah, they couldn't probably.
This girl.
It wouldn't be easy for them to get in with like
so,
the typical.
She's so angry and bitter
you know.
that these rail thin nerds weren't wanting her vagina. She's so fucking bitter.
Well, yeah, or that they were getting something that she wasn't getting. All right, so they couldn't score a date if they'd been a calendar, but in Asia they nabbed the prom queen. Okay, I don't know if they have proms in Japan. They were true success stories. And yeah, they are. Guess what? They weren't content with their environment, so they changed environments. That's actually a pretty admirable thing. Move halfway across the world because you prefer the situation there. You think it's better for you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not. And I'll just interject. You know, there is this. There's this sort of concept when I'm probably exists in all countries where they have ESL teachers, because it happened in China, where people have this idea that a lot of men, which is true to some extent, that there's some men who go there, and I guess women too, because there's this term loser back home. And they say like, well, he was a loser at home, so he went to China.
Yeah, he's sort of retreating.
Or he went to
wants
Japan.
To start himself anew.
Yeah, and he couldn't hack it in America when the dating scene or in the job market or wherever it was, and so he's going there.
Which
but
guess what? If you can't hack it there, there's no way in hell you're hacking it.
Well,
it's a much harder thing to overcome, in my
but
opinion.
why is there a judgment put on that? That if you are not having success in your environment, you change environments? Isn't that
There shouldn't be.
Why
There
do you
shouldn't
have
be
to
at all.
change yourself? I mean, it's ironic because people will say all the time, like, on both sides of political parties, you know, if you don't like it, get out. But then if you do, apparently
You're a pussy.
Yeah, I'm not
Apparently
saying
you
that
suck.
she didn't say that, so I can't put that on her.
I know what
but,
you're saying.
I mean, I would be surprised if she hadn't uttered that. I think everybody's uttered that at least once in their life.
Well, at least
if
to
you don't
herself.
like it here, get out. You know.
Well, at least to herself, she probably
Sure.
thought that. She probably
Yeah.
looked around at her contemporaries, the English teachers, and thought,
Yeah.
oh, you probably just couldn't get it.
I mean, it's like, or another example is like if you were a man, you lived in a small town, and there was just very few single girls, and you moved to New York. People wouldn't say like, "Whoa, this guy, what a coward! He moved to New York
Yeah.
because he couldn't hack it and
he
butt
could-
fuck."
He couldn't fuck
wherever.
those 2 single girls in Kansas.
Yeah, you know.
Sorry.
So this is just a bullshit assertion here. All right, so. Well, but then then she says this is sort of like the passive aggressive backpedaling. Who could blame them for taking advantage of a magical loophole that allowed them to date women out of their league? If such a nirvana existed for Western women, I'm sure I'd have moved there too. There is such a nirvana. It's where you were born. It's called the United States of America. Go back there and you... I mean, could it be more simple?
No, well, see, that's exactly what... She's so dumb, and she doesn't realize that her whole expectations of what she should have been having in Japan were based on this nirvana which she had back in the U.S. of A.
Right. Yeah, it's really shocking how, myopic she is about her own situation. If such nirvana existed for Western women, I'm sure I'd have moved there too.
And I love how she touched on the fact that
Okay.
her male contemporaries are having success with women, but she's not.
Right.
Well, why don't you, isn't that very profound?
Right. And by the
Why don't
way,
you expand upon that and think about that deeper?
and if any men said these things in America, they'd be called a number of names. Like if we were sitting here, which is what we used to do before we actually understood the realities of men and women and attraction and dating. I remember, at least I did. I think you did as well. When we were in, high school or whatever, and we weren't having success with women, we would say things like, God, like it's not fair, like, all these women, it's so easy for them, they get men, like, why isn't it like that for us? And just kind of not really willing to be introspective and to actually change anything, just sort of bitching about what you see as being unfair. She's doing but if men do that in America, they're called loser, they're called socially awkward, which is a word that she already used.
Creepy.
Yeah, nerds, or whatever it is. I think I already said loser, but yeah, they're be called any variety of names.
Because
pejorative
that
names.
sort of attitude which you and I had, that can only go one of two ways as a man. You either A, realize where you are and how things are going, which is where we were in high school, and say, fuck, man, what's going on here? And you can either just sort of stay there in this and wallow in your own
Right.
defeatist, attitude and just wonderment, or you can then look at, okay, why, who and are these women attracted to and why? And what is going on here? And what can I do to attract these women?
Right.
And to me, that's just nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's nature right there.
Right.
Because a woman gets to that crossroad and she's stuck.
And like you said, it is nature because, when you say that to the uninitiated, it might sound like you're saying that you have to go out and change yourself. But actually, when you do it through that process, what you're actually doing is going back to a more natural state. Because what you were doing before has been imposed upon you by movies, books, and stories that you heard growing up. Your mom would tell you, make sure, your dad would say, son, if women like chivalry, open the door for her and she'll be yours. And, your dad totally, I don't know if my dad said that. He doesn't talk that way anyway. But, he probably, you hear a lot of these sort of,
You're just subject
this terrible
to that,
advice
you're subject
that
to
people
that
give
kind
you.
of misinformation your whole life.
Right.
Not
If you watch
society.
romantic comedies, you see the guy and like he surprises the girl with flowers and the girl's like, oh, and her friends are all like cooing and all this shit. Or like Patrice said, he was like, I used to be a poetry writing motherfucker. He's like, I used to write poems for girls.
Those terrible
And guess what? It didn't work because that's not natural. It's not natural to just give everything of yourself and hope a woman will sort of pick up the pieces and then love you. No. It doesn't work. It's unnatural. So, all right, where were we?
And by the way, women will tell you otherwise. Because
because they don't know.
Because they themselves do not know how the fuck a shark eats them.
So never listen to any advice from a woman about dating. Except maybe if she's a lesbian, I don't know.
They would hear
that's possible
what
if
he and I just said and say, "Oh my, yeah, we do. We love it when a guy buys us flowers." How many times has a guy bought you flowers and said how much he loves you, and then you sucked his dick?
0.0. 0.01. Probably happened at least once. I mean, anything's possible.
Sure.
But it's not the norm. All right, so I'm sure I'd have moved there too. But although the occasional coupling sparked the "is she really going out with him?" question, it was easy to understand why Japanese woman, okay, I think she would say, why Japanese women, come on, Rhiannon, proofread this thing before you put it out there, saw Western men, even the nerdy ones, as attractive dating prospects.
Nerdy ones. Again, objectifying their looks.
Right, I like it says even the nerdy ones, like, well, nerds don't deserve to be loved. Right. Like, even the nerdy ones were included. Wow, how generous of them. And by the way, are you not aware that, like, I don't want to say post-millennial, whatever, but, yeah, post-millennium or post 2010. I mean, you're right. Being nerd is king, not just in Asia, all over the world. Have you not been paying attention? I mean, what are all the things now? Startups, all these companies. They're all run by nerds.
Do you not see what's driving the fucking
Nerd is not a bad word anymore. Everyone calls himself, I'm so nerdy.
Do you not see what's driving the economy in the United States?
Yeah.
It's not manufacturing.
Nerds. Yeah, so-called
That's
nerds.
been priced out of the fucking country into the countries that don't have minimum wage laws.
Yes.
It's startup IT companies, period.
Yeah.
Nerds.
I mean, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, the pinnacle of being a nerd. And people hold them up as
look at the newest companies.
icons
Uber,
and success stories.
all those companies are IT-based
Exactly.
companies, all of them.
Yeah.
Look at where the billion-dollar companies are. They're in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, being a nerd is no longer a pejorative term or a bad thing. In fact, it's
Even
overused as
people
being
who
a positive
aren't
thing.
nerds now wear nerd glasses, and they do all these things to
with fake
say how
lenses in them.
nerdy they are, you know, like athletes included.
Yeah, I binge watch all the episodes of whatever. All right, so is she really going out with him? All right, so even the nerdy ones, excuse me, I think it was that mac and cheese, as attractive dating prospects. They were straightforward and open-minded, for one thing, and through their Western wire-rimmed eyes, they viewed relationships as an equal partnership. Yeah, which was something the more traditional, close-minded of Japanese men. Wait, what? Which was something the more traditional, close-minded of Japanese men still struggled to do. I figured that so long as they treated their girlfriends well, and both partners were happy with the arrangement, what did it matter if their peculiar quirks and bizarre comments got lost in translation a little? I don't really know what that means.
I'm not sure where she's going here.
Even the socially awkward deserve to love and be loved. Okay, so she just backpedaled again.
Okay, so first
If there was like an event, backpedaling
first she
to
was
fronts.
she was sort of bitter about how these nerds got the prom queen, which is what she said.
No, she's happy for them.
Now she's
Can't you detect that?
Now she's saying she's totally happy for them.
Right.
So basically, all that cancels out,
Mm-hmm.
and all these words could never have existed.
By the way, women, if you do want some advice, stop being so passive-aggressive and inconsistent with what you say.
Say what you want.
Yeah.
Don't just cancel out what you just said with a fucking 2-minute paragraph.
Save yourself a lot of grief. All right, let's just skip that paragraph because
Jesus
it was just really
Christ.
poorly written and very confusing.
Just a bloated, redundant piece of shit.
I don't know what you meant by peculiar quirks and bizarre Where are bizarre comments?
They were nerdy. Yes, she didn't expand upon that.
Is she talking about like the language? I don't know. Okay. So, but it was hard not to feel jealous. Oh, I hadn't even noticed that she was.
I had no idea she was jealous.
I don't think she is. She's she's perfect, dude. She's a paragon of virtue. Okay. So it was hard not to feel jealous, especially as I spent weekend after weekend bravely facing the club's dance floor alone, while my dorky expat brothers expertly flirted for phone numbers and first dates. Well, now she just said
this almost
she
sounds
said they
like
expertly.
this almost sounds like it's satirically written by a man.
I know. Well, if this wasn't her website full of stuff written by her,
does.
I would be suspicious.
Because she keeps saying
What
how
is that,
these men
Poe's
have
Law or
so
whatever?
much success.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. Now she's kind of changing. She says, "I was facing the club's dance floor while my dorky expat brothers expertly flirted." Well, if they were expertly flirting, they
What the
should
fuck
be
were you
getting
doing?
laid. Well, isn't that a good thing? I mean,
Yes.
expertly flirting.
That's part of courting, right?
So they're not socially awkward if they're expertly flirting. And she
No,
should have. She
those
should have
two
said
ideas, expertly flirting and
being
awkward
socially awkward and mutually
are mutually
exclusive.
exclusive. Those are impossible to have this in one and the
Yeah,
same.
it'd be one thing
same
if she
person.
said while they were bumbling their way into success, that would
Right.
kind of
Yeah, that'd be kind of
reinforce her point. All right, so they were like kids in a candy store. The Japanese women were gourmet truffles.
yeah.
while-
They were tuna.
While this is actually a pretty funny sentence. I gotta give it to her. This is well written. The Japanese women were gourmet truffles, while the Western women were the 3-year-old Tootsie Rolls melted to the bottom of the barrel.
Exactly.
All right, Ms. Muth, that's
Exactly, toots.
pretty pretty well written statement.
What the
And-
hell were you doing to rectify
And it's
that?
true as well, because I said the same thing in China. And it happened to me when I was in China. I found myself over time. I became less and less attracted to Western women. Like even
It wasn't
physically, I would
because of-
see.
exactly. It wasn't
I would
because
just
of
see a girl like
physical-
on TV, and I'd be like, I don't know. It's just I know objectively she's attractive, but
Right.
it's just not really exciting me.
Sure.
But yeah, it does happen that you'll see a lot of these women there who back home they would be getting, all kinds of attention. Then in China or in Asia, they're just desperate for anything,
Mm-hmm.
which is ironically like, as a Western man, it's actually really easy to pick up Western women in Asia because they're not really, as you can see from this article,
They're receptive to any sort of...
their calendar's clear, All right, so, but then furthermore, the men just still don't really want them, the Western men, so it doesn't really, the environment doesn't really
Western man is going
equalize
to,
the way they would
Japan
like.
in hopes of finding those lonely Western women.
Yeah, that's actually, funny enough, that would actually be a valid strategy. If you were like, man, I'm not attractive to Asians. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I really want to get a nice blonde. It's like, go to Asia. Like, you'll get one.
So ironic.
I mean, yeah. All right, so you can get a woman with long, blonde, naturally curly hair.
Naturally curly.
I guarantee it. Okay, so that was a good line, though. The 3-year-old Tootsie Rolls melted at the bottom of the barrel. That is very vivid. It really does describe just the lowliness of their status there. The Japanese men might have been frightened of us, but the other expat men just flat out ignored us. They sure did, honey. But as I often reminded myself, I hadn't come to Asia for a boyfriend.
Oh.
Could have fooled me. I'd come because I wanted to master Japanese.
Well, why
and explore a culture.
Why is this whole article not mentioning anything about...
No,
mastering
Jeremiah, look,
Japanese?
she wanted to master Japanese and explore a culture drastically different from
Well,
her
I had no
own.
idea, because this article so far has mentioned
Doesn't she
none
sound
of
like
that.
a real cultural explorer? I mean,
No.
it doesn't sound like she wants to impose her culture on there.
No,
does
not
it?
at all.
Okay.
This whole article has mentioned none of that. Yet she just wants to interject that.
Well,
that's
because
not why
that's
I'm here.
well, that's a default
I'm not
statement.
here for men.
Right. That's a
Well, then
default
why is
statement
this
people
article
say.
about
I'm
you
just
being
here to
lonely?
explore the culture. No, you're not.
If that's true, this article wouldn't be written.
Right. I mean, a lot of people go there. I admit it appealed to me to some extent that when you go to Asia as a white person, you're kind of like a minor celebrity, especially, well, maybe not in Tokyo, I don't know, but especially if you go to like a smaller town where you're just white people are not that prevalent, because it's just like if you were living in America and you saw I mean, I always use this analogy. Well, there's two analogies. It's almost like if you're in America and you saw like a fully decked out Native American chief walking down the street, like on Main Street, and he was wearing like a headdress, you'd be like, whoa. I mean, I know he's just a person. I'm not thinking necessarily he's cool or he's great, but that's something I've never seen.
Absolutely.
And that's how it is in Asia. It doesn't necessarily mean they think, oh, you're cool, you're sexy, you're funny. Some people do. But it's just like, you're different, so you get attention. Might not always be good attention. Or another analogy is like, if you're walking, when you're in your yard, you just see like a deer. I mean, deer exist. You've seen them before. You've seen them, but like, how often do you see a deer?
You do not encounter
them. Unless you live in the rural area.
Rarely
But
you encounter them.
but when you do, you're like, whoa.
They
look
make
at
you
that.
stop in your tracks.
Yeah.
And in this case, you can actually speak to that deer.
Mhm.
And guess what? If you're a man,
And you could have sex with that deer, and not get any diseases. Well, you get diseases, but not any animal diseases.
well, if you're a man,
mad deer disease or whatever you can get.
if you're a man, you can take advantage of the fact that this woman,
Mhm.
in this case Chinese girls, whatever, want to use this small window to talk to you. They find you interesting, and as a man, you can expand upon that. Whereas before, you had no reason or non-awkward way of starting a conversation with her.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It just opens the door, and that was
Yes.
my experience. I mean, I encountered when I was in China. I did encounter a few people, and I heard stories about women who would essentially be like throw themselves at. But honestly, a lot of those women are really not the kind you would want. I mean, it's just like being easy in America or something. It's not the average person. It doesn't work that way.
Most of
So
the really slutty and easy people aren't people who want to fuck anyway.
yeah. That's slut shaming. You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Sorry,
I'm pretty soon that's going to be illegal. There's going to be a
That's a
fine.
bad word.
$500 fine for that, actually. It's going to be a sign and everything. Alright, so... Where are we? I wanted to explore a culture drastically different from my own. But I just hadn't expected that moving my life to Japan would mean leaving my love life at home. As much as I'd enjoy my life in Tokyo, it just didn't seem like a fair trade. Not that the female dating situation in Japan wasn't without the occasional success story. I knew a few women who'd come to Japan and left with husbands or fiancés in tow, but they were the minority. Most Western women came to Japan single and stayed that way. And by the way, yeah, I've never been to Japan, like I said. I don't know like the stats or whatever, but anecdotally speaking, I've seen on YouTube and stuff, it seems like, or on the internet, there's a lot of American women marrying Japanese men. I've seen. I mean, like more than, especially I think more than other Asians. Like I've seen it on like YouTube. Like there's like YouTube channels. There was one, I can't remember the name, because I was. Did you see that news story recently about the big hubbub, the uproar about the Japanese museum exhibit?
No.
Okay, well that's another thing for another day. But there was a big like racial, controversy. Someone was offended. Can you believe that?
I don't get this whole thing. I mean,
anyway, but I happened to encounter like some YouTube page where it's I can't remember the name of it. It's like Rachel and something else, where the guy, they're husband and wife, and the guy is Japanese and she's redhead, whatever. So I mean, I've seen it quite a few times. Anyway,
but again,
all right, let me just finish the article. We're almost
absolving herself.
Right. All right, let me finish the article and then we'll. All right, one more paragraph. I was walking from work one Friday evening when it dawned on me that I'd been in Japan for 9 months. I inwardly congratulated myself for having beat the odds. I'd proven my boss wrong. Well, no, he never said you were going to leave.
No.
He didn't prove anything wrong. But as I trudged home to face another evening of reruns of The Office and leftover sushi from 7-Eleven, God, that's
terrible.
Depressing.
I don't want to get hot wings from 7-Eleven.
I wondered at what cost. Most days I felt unattractive, unwanted, and worst of all, unfemale. When not even a short skirt or slinky top attracted more than a passing glance, and even construction workers who would usually be counted on for a leer, regarded me with bored, blank expressions. I felt like a Martian, and very, very alone. Perhaps I'd been wrong not to leave when the last shipload of foreign women sailed away to brighter horizons and better dating odds.
How ironic it is.
Because the truth is that Tokyo's a tough city to be single. If you're, a Western woman.
If you're a hopeless woman that doesn't know how to get men.
Right. If you're a giant hypocrite.
How ironic it is that you long for the days.
Ahead.
That you long for the days when that tube top garnered interest from construction workers. How funny it is that you miss those fucking days, isn't it, honey?
Interesting.
That you look back on those days in remembrance as good times, how you miss them, and how you lust for that to happen again.
Even the construction workers aren't doing it.
It's
Where are those trusty construction workers?
Your fellow American women are fighting those men right now. Calling them pigs.
I know. Can't we?
Disgusting men.
I mean,
for objectifying women like yourself?
Well, it was hilarious because right before I left China, in my class I had like I talked to them about this sort of controversy now and this conflict between feminism and men's rights or MGTOW and all that stuff. And I showed them that video, it's called 10 Hours of Walking in New York or whatever, right?
God, yeah.
And I showed them that, and I was like, so what are you guys saying? Like, do you think that's really, offensive? And they were like, no. And I was like, does this ever happen to you? They said, no, it doesn't happen here. Like, people, again, this is a cultural thing. People there just don't really do that as much. And, I mean, I asked, like, a lot of girls I was teaching, I mean, very attractive. And they're in college. And I would say, has this ever happened in your life? They said, no, never in my life. Has a random man, like, complimented me or just said, like, called out to me? And it was funny because I have a Chinese friend, a girl, who used to have an American boyfriend. And she visited him, I think, 2 or 3 times. And he lived in New York, okay? So, and she would tell, and she told me that she visited there, and I was like, this was a couple years ago, and I just knew this anyway. And I go, so did a lot of guys, like, talk to you, like, try to hail you and stuff? She was like, yeah! She's like, I felt so sexy there. She's like, people never do that to me in China, And she goes, yeah, all these guys. And she was like, especially black guys. I was like, yeah, because they would like you because let's just say she has what a lot of black men claim is their preferred body type. I'll just leave it at that.
How dare you?
I know. Oh my God, that was
of shit.
I'm offended. This is what I've been told by African American men.
Guess what? Black dudes like big booty. Okay, how much
dude?
Throw it out there.
Whoa, bro.
I went to Providence Middle School. So did you. We know black guys.
We certainly did. All right, so.
And guess what? I like big booty too.
I do as well. Nothing wrong with the big booty. I can't even.
Delicious.
I don't want to use the word booty. I feel really.
It sounds lame, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not a word that I use.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
fake for me to say that.
I like a big ass.
And I hate when white guys like ironically say they're like, she got a big booty. It's like, shut the fuck up. Just say she has a fat ass. That's what white guys say.
Yeah.
She has a big ass. Or she has a fat ass.
Guess what? That's what black guys like. That's
Right.
what this lady.
That's what a lot of guys like.
That's what this lady had apparently, and so
Exactly.
she garnered favor from men in New York City.
Yeah, and by the way, what's funny is that, that body type she has is very unwanted in Asia, or at least in China, I should say. They like, super skinny, like not much curves,
Perfect
all that
recipe
stuff.
for like a American shark,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, she really needs to live here because she would be rolling in it. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how when you don't experience, and I'm not saying that harassment, inappropriate harassment doesn't exist.
No,
I'm not
absolutely it does.
I'm not saying that all instances should be accepted by women and just taken in stride, but I just find it interesting how, the grass is always green on the other side. When they're not getting it, they crave it, as this woman did, as a lot of
She was
Asian women
reminiscing
do, or
about
Chinese women.
greasy, sweaty construction workers staring at her.
Yeah,
Which
leering. She was
here,
begging for a leer.
years now.
Right.
Women have been bitching about that sort of behavior.
Okay, now, so after all this, let me just remind you. Let me back up here, okay? And I'll try to edit this into the video later. Now, again, this is not. I mean, it is. It's personally. I guess you could call it personally attacking. I'm not doing it to attack her to be mean, but
Attack the idea.
I'm doing this because this is what she put out there. Okay.
Well, she put it out there, so
No, but
she's...
I haven't said what I'm talking about yet. I'm just prefacing what I'm about to say. So, she said before, it wasn't that I was beauty queen gorgeous. Far from it. Slim, medium height, with hazel eyes and freckles. I was at best cute, and at worst average.
Okay, so you're an average girl.
But, alright, now that she said that, hold on a second.
You gonna look her up?
Now, this is important, okay? So this is what she said, right? I was at best, cute, at worst average.
At worst. Damn.
That's like, on my worst day, I
I
roll out of
wouldn't even
bed.
say that about myself.
Right,
Damn.
at worst average. I mean, you roll out of bed, you didn't do your hair, you're wearing like sweatpants and a
Worst
Aerosmith
Holy
t-shirt.
shit.
Now, let's see. Let me just show you some photos of her and see if you think...
I've never seen this woman before in my life.
Right, this is your initial reaction. This is like, yeah.
All right, this is...
All right. Okay, so here's picture number 1. At best cute, at worst average. And again, like I said, I should be able to superimpose these over the video so people can follow along at home. This is the one that she actually had in the blog. Sorry. At best cute, at worst average.
No. No and no. Okay.
At worst
You folks
average.
will see this eventually.
Right. And
I
I'll
would
put them
say
in
at best
average.
a 4 or 5 being average.
Right. I mean,
Now-
this is just our opinion, okay? Again, I'm not doing this just
Now,
to be mean. It does sound mean, but I'm doing it because she put herself out there as saying, I'm average.
Now,
And she's wondering why men aren't talking to her.
here's the other thing you have to consider too.
You put it out there.
She's average based on the American scale.
Here's a nice shot where she's trying to display her cleavage and try to be...
She's still...
But look, dude, she's learning Spanish. She's smart. You should be attracted to her, even though she is very unattractive in her...
her
facial
bilingualness
features,
really
but-
affects how I view her sexually.
Well, how about...
Again,
how about this nice
you have to then
bikini shot?
you have
Looks
to
kind of
then
like a...
think
one of
about
the
her
characters on Cops.
in the Japanese culture. Compared to most Japanese girls, she's a 3. Her face,
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest. And again, she put herself out there. She is the one that said that she's average. She is the one that started this whole thing. And so, I'm sorry to tell you, sweetie, but you're not average in Japanese
Right. I
society.
mean, this is a big factor. Like, this
Physically
is...
speaking, you're not.
Right. I mean, all this, she built a lot of her
And by the
theory...
way, neither am I.
Right. We're not... It doesn't matter. I mean, you could be the ugliest person in the world and still say someone else is ugly. That's one of those...
Yes, exactly.
That's one of those sort of fallacies that people say, like, well, you're your new model yourself.
Well,
okay.
Does that refute what I just
Right.
said?
Does that mean you're more attractive? It
Right.
doesn't change reality. Like, we never said we're anything. we can talk about that in another day if you want.
And
But
by the way, were her male counterparts she mentioned, were they all studs? Doubt it.
no one even
She
knows.
even said
Right.
herself the nerd was successful.
Right.
There.
Well, this is an issue too
Well,
now.
If the nerd was successful there, the male nerd, why wasn't the average girl? Because you lack the ability to get men.
Right.
That's
Also, you're not average. You're below
Yeah,
average. I
right.
mean, let's be honest
Well, even
here.
if she was.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of her theory was built on a false assumption that she's at worst average. So she just thought, well, it can't be my looks, so it's got to be something else.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
what is
just
it then? Again,
that's
she
just a
didn't-
delusional.
She didn't address that.
Right.
Well, she just put all the blame on,
Mhm.
on Japanese culture
Yeah.
and Japanese men.
Well, it's
None of it was on her.
Yeah. Well, it's like I read this article. I think I'll try to find it, and link it or something when I put this video up. But what's that guy's name? I think it was that guy Milo something. I can't remember. He has like a Greek name. He's gay, but he's like big in like the men's rights thing or whatever. And he writes for Breitbart.com and a bunch of other stuff. But he had a couple of articles called like the Sexodus about MGTOW, I guess, or not necessarily using that term, but that how a lot of men. And by the way, this is happening. This is all right. I'll back up to this. So how a lot of men are sort of like giving up on women, like young men, our generation, and whatnot. And he had a good point that there's a lot of women who let's call them below average, okay, to be to be tactful. So let's say a lot of women below average who at some point in their life, like, they'll encounter a guy who in normal situations will be considered to be a catch, and he's extremely good looking and successful and has money, and let's be honest, he just wants to get laid, and then he'll have sex with her. And a lot of women, I think, that will happen to them, and then they'll take that as like an indicator of their attractiveness, like,
that's what they deserve.
Damn, I can get some.
Right.
I got this guy. You wouldn't believe
that's now their
it.
threshold.
Right. And it's like that guy, like, he just wanted to get some. All right, that's just the way it happened. I'm sure women do that too to men. There's a lot of women who are like, but the fact is, we know in America for women, it's much, much easier for a woman to get a man for sex purposes than it is for a man. If all other things being equal, right? If you took a man who is whatever a 6 is in your mind, let's just say objectively he's a 6, and a woman who's a 6. I mean, I guarantee you could do this scientifically. You can't because the 6 isn't scientific. But if you could somehow in a perfect world do that scientifically, 10 times out of 10, the woman would get more sexual encounters than a man.
You and I saw a girl today at the gym. That was attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Had a wonderful ass on her.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, this isn't like we were being creepy. We were standing in somewhere.
I was trying not to look at her.
I just looked because it was right in my face.
God.
She was about 2 feet away doing bent over rows right in our
with
face.
leggings on.
I mean, I didn't seek it out, guys.
The ass was almost littered in our face.
Right, and she had tight pants
Oh
on.
my! And she had a beautiful
Right.
butt, just outstanding.
And nothing wrong with that. And by the way, we didn't go talk to her. We were just admiring from afar. We didn't.
Right. My whole point is.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you fuck her?
I don't know. I mean.
Right now you would fuck her, and so would I. Based on that small interaction.
Right.
We already know.
And by the way, her face wasn't really that attractive.
We had
we just
we need.
liked her ass.
We had everything we need to have sexual attraction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to apologize
We're good.
for that.
No, you don't have
That's
to.
just the way it is.
And you're just being honest. And I mean, if pretty much, I don't want to say all, but
again, I'm not being a
99% of men are the same way.
I'm not being a pig about it. I'm just not going to lie.
Put the mic up.
I had everything I needed to be sexually attracted to that woman and have sex with her right then when I saw her. And that's not the way women operate. And shit, good for you. Because you get more
again, that's a good thing.
You get more out of the person than we do.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It's not necessarily an advantage. I guess it is an advantage because it gives them more options for what they can be attracted to. But I think it is a good thing. It's a positive attribute about women. And it's one of the positive attributes of women over men. Because, yes, men and women both have natural advantages and disadvantages compared to each other. This is something which
we're not equal.
A lot of people do not want to...
We're
not biologically equal.
We're not equal. It doesn't make sense to say that. We're stronger, we're faster.
And there's no reason
that means not equal.
And there's no reason that we have to be happy. I mean, yes, legally we should be equal, but there's no reason why we have to be biologically equal or emotionally equal to be in a state of happiness or a state of contentment. No one said that. Where is that written?
No. It's not.
Right.
Except from
that's an example of disease of civilization.
Yes.
This idea that, well, if men can do it, women can do it too. And if women can do it, men can do it too. Not
False.
always.
False.
Not in every situation.
Surely
no.
false.
Yeah. And it's not about, and again, it's not about talking about the law. It's not saying, well, women shouldn't be allowed to vote or women shouldn't be allowed to have jobs. Nobody's saying that.
Should.
So none of these, none of these fucks who watch
By
this
the way, those
try to
ideas are
build
not
that strong man.
those
but-
ideas are not mutually exclusive with the fact that men and women are not equal.
Right. I was just pointing out that
They're just
I
not.
was just clarifying. Yeah, we're not saying that. So, shit, what was I gonna say before? Yeah. So, that article, you take the whole thing into account. I mean, again, it really just exemplifies a lot of the misconceptions that women have about themselves, about men, and about the relationship, the overall relationship between men and women as
Courtship,
genders.
especially.
The courtship process.
Mm-hmm.
How about that expression?
Well, the whole expression
stupid
is lame as
expression.
shit, but
Especially when you trace it back to
I don't
the
know.
courts of
I don't know what else to describe
medieval
it
times
except
or something.
for,
Right.
Yeah, she has no idea how to
I
get
guess
men.
it sounds better than getting dick or
She has
getting
no
pussy.
idea how to get men at all.
Right.
Because women don't. Why should you?
Because
It's
in
our
America,
job.
she just walked into a bar and got men.
Yep.
And it's just like, it's just like for us. Perfect example. Most people, myself included,
And we're not,
I have no idea how to hunt for food. I understand what it is. I know that you have to go out and then find animals and kill them, but I've never done it.
You've never had to refine that skill.
Right, because guess
ever.
what? All my life, I've been able to go into a store and
Yep,
buy food. I can
exactly.
drive to McDonald's and get food. Easily. I can get as much food as I want. More than I ever need in my whole life.
Yep.
And if you put me out in the wilderness, I'd probably die
You're
or,
lost.
eventually I'm sure I'd either learn or die. And that's what happened to her. She was put out in the wilderness, the sexual wilderness, if I can use that expression, which sounds kind of like a porn title. Sexual Wilderness, volume...
I don't know. That's a pretty shitty fucking title, though.
I didn't say it was good, okay? I'm just saying it could be... Maybe like maybe like a softcore porn like on Cinemax
Okay, yeah.
at 2 o'clock in the morning. Do they still, by the way, show those? Like, I haven't watched...
Could there really be a market for that?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd watch them if it was there. They're
Only
fun to
because,
watch.
like, I feel like there wasn't a market then. Yet they still were around.
Well, that was kind of before the internet. I guess
Yeah, I know, but
at that time,
goddamn.
if you wanted to get porn in your home,
You had to go
unless you want to go out and get it, it was like, well, it's on Cinemax.
Right.
It ain't that great, but...
They showed, like, half a titty, like, fuck.
Yeah, there was like that Paulo Francisco bit where he said it sounds like they're moving furniture. He's like, oh yeah, put it like, or it looks like they're moving furniture because you just see it from the waist up. He's like, they could be moving a couch. He's like, yeah, right there. He's like, put it over there, put it by the wall, because like you don't see anything that's going on. Or they would have like the sheets over them. You're like, what are they doing over there? I love that in movies too, by the way. Like, movies are so fake with how people have sex. I was watching Game of Thrones recently, and there's a lot of sex scenes in there. Some of them are, people always say like, oh, there's so much sex, but it's not really that graphic. It doesn't, you see tits and you see some.
To me, it's always the same two shots.
But it's funny because they never like, well, number one, there's never any sort of process of the guy like inserting.
No,
it's always like
penetration is never on.
yeah,
camera.
it happens. They don't. A lot of times they don't even seem to take their pants off, or they just kind of like they'll kind of do something, and it's like, well, I'm ready now, and they just go right in. I'm like,
well,
dude.
For me, it's two shots. Okay, one it's missionary,
Right.
which is very loving.
Yeah.
And
usually they have the covers on, which I don't know who does
who the
that.
fuck does that?
Unless it's
Especially,
like really cold.
You
don't have heat.
this,
The heating.
world they have in a Game
You
of
didn't pay your
Thrones.
heating bill, so you had to.
And it's very sensual. Oh,
Right.
oh.
Yeah, and they're like.
Or B, it's doggy style, which is like very rough,
Right.
and it's like rape maybe, and like what's weird.
Well, that's
is,
the one
like,
they show when the guy is cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
It's like when he's banging his wife in the movie, it's usually missionary, and then when he's like having sex with his secretary, it's like he's doing it doggy style.
Something else I've noticed is like when it's rape, the guy humps in a certain rhythmic pattern. Like he humps it.
Okay,
it's
you're really getting deep into this.
Well,
Oh,
as does this guy. But
so to speak.
But
Come on, rape's not funny. Rape is
he
never
humps
funny.
like very slowly and powerfully.
Mm.
He'll be like, ugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's to sort of like emphasize his.
Exactly.
His
It's like
domination.
who humps like that?
Well, but that's rape. We don't know because we've never raped
I'm
anybody.
not a raper. But
Well, I haven't, but I don't know about you. I can't. I don't know. You may
It's
well
very
have
weird.
in your life, allegedly.
officially.
No. Officially?
Officially. But I don't know. I've noticed that though. It's like doggy star missionary, and it's
Right.
Well, sometimes a woman's writing, but
Well, because just like everything else in movies and TV, it's not done to represent reality. It's done to represent a certain concept.
sure.
You know,
yes.
well, they're having sex, but we
They
don't.
are having sex now.
We don't really want to show having. By the way, this is changing too. I saw a show. Now I didn't like this show very much. It was called Sense8 on Netflix, and I could go into a whole thing about that show and all of its problems, but it was pretty. It was kind of funny. I didn't really take it seriously, but they had a couple of sex scenes in there which were very realistic, including one which is an infamous scene where these two. Well, there is a transsexual woman. So it was a man who had become a woman, who's a transsexual in real life as well, and her character is. But she's also a lesbian, so wrap your head around that. So she has a girlfriend who's a normal or a whatever. Okay, so there is a transsexual,
Okay.
a man who became a woman,
Sure.
and she has a girlfriend. She's a lesbian. I guess you could, or I mean, I guess in a way she's straight. I don't know.
No, she's not, bro. She's a girl.
Okay, so but she doesn't have, apparently, they didn't show it, but apparently she does not have a penis.
Okay.
But she does like to use a strap-on, which this is kind of
You had
funny.
it all along.
I know, it's like, why did you go out and buy one? I guess, okay, so I guess she thought, well, 23 hours out of the day I don't want to have a dick, but for 1 hour I do. Okay, that's fair enough, right? I guess it's kind of like you like shave your head, but you want to wear wigs because like it gives you more options. I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way.
I understand.
All right. Anyway, there was an infamous scene where, I guess one of them was wearing the strap-on, and they were banging, and it was very like I don't say realistic, but it wasn't all like dialed up and sensual. And then this was why it was infamous because, well, first of all, that hasn't been shown much on TV, like two chicks using a strap-on, unless it was like I don't know, I never watched one of what was that show, the lesbian show called The L Word or something?
Oh yeah,
Is that a TV show? Or no, there's another one. Is that a reality
show? That was a show, wasn't it?
Is that a reality show or a drama
I thought
though?
it was a show on like Cinemax or some shit.
Yeah, there's a couple shows
I
that
don't
were
know,
focused on
Stars or
lesbians.
something.
They probably showed it to be edgy, but on this show, it was infamous because when the one person pulled out, I can't remember exactly what they did, but I think they like took off the strap on and threw it, and like the the juice like sprayed off like into the camera shot. So like it was really like, you could really, oh, this is realistic. They were really using that thing. And that's why it was so infamous, because it kind of showed the nitty gritty of, which I thought was kind of cool. It's like, damn, like they weren't really dolling it up any more than it has to be. They were showing what it probably looks like when two lesbians get it on.
And that is cool, I guess. The fact that they're not hiding anything, and they're really, like you said, getting to the nitty gritty. But for a story, like Game of Thrones or whatever, I don't need that.
Right. Well,
to enhance the story. It's just too much. It's
well,
okay,
again,
I get it. They're fucking. Who cares?
I don't want to get into the whole thing because I could go on for a while with that show, but that was actually a common thread in the show, which is that because it was made by who are now called the Wachowski siblings.
Yeah, I don't know.
One of them was.
But I'm saying,
so the whole show is like that.
Not even
it's not
that show, but like Game of Thrones. Like,
right.
hey, I don't need like a 2.5 minute.
Right.
I
Exactly.
get it. They're fucking.
I don't really need any sex scenes. Just show them undressing, then go to the next scene
exactly.
and save time.
Okay, they fucked.
Well, there was an infamous scene in Game of Thrones which was dubbed very cleverly dubbed sex position, meaning like exposition and sex put together, because there was a scene, because it's adapted from a book, they can't have those nice author exposition passages where but there was a scene where
in a book they're not really that elaborated on, in my opinion. A lot of these fantasy books from their sex.
Right. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in a book there's author exposition about the world, backstory.
Oh, right, yeah. Right.
So in the show you can't do that because there's no narrator. So in the show there was a scene where this one character, he basically had to info dump the audience.
Okay.
Because they had to know this backstory to understand what the fuck was going on with these characters.
Okay, that makes sense.
So instead of just having him like tell the guy like, yeah, one time I did this, when he's telling the story, there's just two chicks like having sex in the background.
That makes sense.
Because they wanted to like spice it up.
That makes sense.
Right. But it was the scene was kind of criticized because that's kind of like lazy writing. Like, oh, you just wanted to punch up the exposition and you couldn't think of a more clever way. But I mean, it's not. It's just a minor scene.
I guess. I mean,
but it's pretty. It's pretty funny.
Sorry, folks. But
he hasn't seen anything
in
the past like 10 years. So don't even.
If there's a lot of ground to cover in a small amount of time, I understand showing a scene that tell what has
Yeah,
happened.
it's only a couple minute scene anyway.
But
And I thought it was actually
sex scenes in shows suck.
Right.
They suck.
Yeah, when they just focus on it, it
So
doesn't make me.
I fucking get it.
Well, the funny thing is, I think sex scenes are made for women, not men.
I do too.
Because
absolutely.
again, the way they're shot is to be all focused on romance. It's not what
Yes.
men want to see when they
Right.
watch sex. I mean, if you look at like most porn, it's not. I mean, I've never watched porn. I don't. Mom,
no.
if she watches, I mean, I know, but I've heard people have told me that in
Ah,
porn.
disgusting.
Sorry, I know. I went too far. I crossed the line. I think that's it. I can't go on. Just it's done.
Bukkake.
What is that? I don't know. It says like a town in Japan or something.
It sounds like it.
What if it is?
It has
What
a
if-
lot of K's.
What if that was like an actual name of like a city in Japan? Like you live there. It's
Old
like,
Bukkake.
where are you from? Bukkake, Japan. Like,
Are you
really?
serious?
Come on.
Yeah.
I wonder what that actually means. Like, what is the
Oh,
translation?
Literal translation.
I don't know. Well, I guess I'll have to look it up
You could
later
find out. Yeah.
in private browsing mode, so that,
Maybe somebody
so that
watching
doesn't
this
come
is, like,
up.
yelling it out.
So it doesn't come up when I search. You know.
Yeah. Oh, incognito mode.
Yeah, I'm so glad they had. There was a funny thing Joe Rogan was talking about once where, like, when you go, if you're on your computer, let's say, like, you bring your mom over and you wanted to, like, show her, like, let me show you this thing on YouTube. But, like, you have to, like, when you go to, like, the search, you know, it has the autocomplete.
Yeah.
And you have to type, like, the Y-O-U-T really quickly
Very
so,
fast.
like, you-jizz or something doesn't come
exactly.
up. So you're like,
Exactly.
you get ready. You're like, where's the Y? You have to get every key, like, ready. Because if you actually type in, like, just Y-O, it's going to be, like, you-jizz.
Yeah. You don't want that
or something.
autofill to fucking.
Yeah.
You know.
Or if you type in a P and it's like comes up like Pornhub, like
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of links. And
You get those first 4 to 5 letters.
yeah, so that it
very fast.
it specifies
Even if
exactly
it's a
which
typo.
website.
'Cause
Yeah,
a typo won't pull up bullshit. That you don't
yeah.
wanna
I've
see.
actually done that before, where like I
I have
was
too.
in the moment I knew I couldn't type it correctly, so I just like
Right.
typed a bunch of keys and I was
Yeah,
like,
a
let
bunch
me
of
back
shit.
up one key at a time.
XYZ4.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. That's an awkward moment, especially with your parents. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's anybody else. Like if it was your friend, you wouldn't really care that much. It's like okay, whatever. But
Yeah.
when it's your mom or something, you don't want to see all those come up. But now, they've invented all the private browsing modes, which I think are awesome.
Damn
So-
kids.
I know.
You got it good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we could bring this thing to a close. It's probably been closer to 2 hours now. We really went deep into that article, but yeah, I think that was a really good thing for us to discuss because it really touched on a lot of stuff that we like to talk about. So anyway, eventually this will be on YouTube, and I hope people enjoy it. So again, if you're watching this and you are interested in the kind of things we have to say, I don't know why you would be, but there's probably at least one crazy fucking guy out there. He's like, hell yeah, I agree with you, man.
Fucking women.
I know. Let's kill them all. You're like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, calm down, bro.
Yeah, don't take it too far. Visit our website, diseasesofcivilization.us, okay, for America. But it works it should work anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, unless you're, you don't have internet, in which case,
What the
Sorry.
fuck is wrong with you?
I know. In which case, how are you seeing this? But I'm gonna try to get this airdropped into like North Korea where they don't have internet and just
You
like,
should.
just instigate like a coup or a
Yeah.
revolution. That's my goal.
I mean, never mind the fact that they're slaves in mines.
Yeah,
They need to worry about the male and female dichotomy. That's what they're concerned.
they
with.
do. They need to worry about all of our first world problems, like about dating difficulties and misconceptions. Like this is what really matters in life. All right, so if you enjoy this, go to the website and we'll have like a forum. Again, it's not made yet, but by the time you see this, it will be. Forum and blog and all kinds of stuff. Well, not really, just those two things. But yeah, that's all. So thank you for watching and good night. Any final words?
Bye.